Madam, a home is not just about the flat you live in, but the quality of our overall living environment. That means our HDB towns and also the rest of our city. And that's something that we've always been very mindful of. What we enjoy today is a result of long-term commitment, meticulous planning, and painstaking implementation, year by year, decade after decades. And that's why today we have beautiful HDB homes set in lush greenery and waters, like what you see here in Tengah Forest Town, which we are going to put out the first batch of flats by next year. I note what Mr. Peng Yen Huat said earlier about quality issues and defects. I would be the first to admit that HDB is not perfect. But which developer is? In all building projects, there will always be some defects here and there, right? And that's why there is a 1 year or there's a period where the developer will come in to remedy the defects. And I would say let's be fair and objective in assessing HDB quality over the years and decades. Any objective assessment of the quality of HDB projects, I think, would show that the quality has indeed improved. And if you look at independent scoring of quality, like the Conquest score, which measures construction quality, indeed they have improved over the years. And whenever we see that there are defects or issues, we will make sure that HDB goes in to remedy them and puts things right. And if there are specifics in the case of what Mr. Peng mentioned, we will look at them. We are doing this in HDB and our HDB estates to make them more beautiful, to make them more inclusive as well, so that we have an inclusive environment for people of all ages and abilities. We are building a more vibrant town with its own distinctive character, heritage, and identity, attributes that Mr. Alex Yam mentioned. And we are also building more integrated mixed-use districts where people can live, work, and play together. We are also taking steps to rejuvenate our older estates. So it's not just about new towns, but we are also taking steps to rejuvenate the older ones. And I note the suggestions by Engineer Dr. Lee Biwa and Ms. Jessica Tan to extend the HIP. I've explained before our position on this. We are still in the process of working through the current batch of upgrading for HIP. And so let us finish this first. We are studying the subsequent batch, but as I've mentioned before, this is contingent on the resources of the government to fund such a program, because any upgrading program is a major commitment that spans over many years. So we have undertaken upgrading projects before, and we will continue to do so, and SMS Desmond Lee will elaborate more on this. Madam, there's much that we can be proud of in Singapore, but we must never take this for granted. We have significant infrastructure demands in our next phase of development. We need to replace existing infrastructure assets which are aging, and also invest in new infrastructure projects. Members already know about our plans to expand Changi Airport and Tuas Terminal. And we have other infrastructure needs too, including in our public transport system, our utility system like water, which we have discussed extensively in the budget debate, sewage, waste, our power grids. All these are crucial in enabling economic growth, generating jobs, and improving the quality of life for our people. We cannot assume that all new infrastructure will be automatically put in place and old ones will be automatically upgraded by the government. Look at the situation in many first world democracies where infrastructure is deteriorating. And just take America as an example, where some cities are literally still relying on water and sewage pipelines that were built more than a century ago. Why is this happening? Partly because of NIMBY mindsets and opposition from various interest groups, because it's not in my backyard. I oppose a new infrastructure next to my home. It's partly also because infrastructure projects are very expensive and many governments do not have the resources to fund them. Private financing has been cited very often as a way around this, but PPPs are not a silver bullet. Ultimately, someone has to pay, which means either higher user charges or taxes. Because of all these difficulties, there's a tendency for politicians to kick the infrastructure can down the road and focus on short-term deliverables. And that's why you see the situation you see in many advanced developed countries. Infrastructure gets neglected, and the result is deteriorating infrastructure. We are not immune from these pressures. So we must never assume that infrastructure will automatically get done in Singapore. If the economy fails, if there are no fiscal resources, if there's an incompetent government, then nothing will happen and infrastructure will stagnate and Singapore will decline. Some people have also asked me if there's a lot more we can do given our land constraints. What more can we do in Singapore where everything is already developed? But the fact is that we have yet to reach our physical limits. We are optimizing land use to free up more space. I mentioned this last year, where through the movement of Paya Lebar Air Base and the city ports, we can free up much more space for new developments. We are exploring ways to expand space options, including underground space, as Mr. Darrell David mentioned just now. And underground space is not so much for underground living. I don't think we are ready for that. But we can certainly put utilities and storage facilities, many other things underground. Then valuable surface land can be freed up for housing, for greenery, and for other users. So there's tremendous potential to dream big, to think boldly, and build a new Singapore for the next 50 years. We must not let complacency set in, or worse, allow a culture of stasis to take root and ossify our society. The same spirit of innovation that we need for the economy must be applied to planning our future city and home. We must find innovative ways to build new infrastructure for the future. We must develop new and innovative urban concepts that will make Singapore a more attractive, sustainable, and livable home. Take the example of how we've succeeded in building a garden city. Some of you would have read the recent reports of how Singapore was ranked as a city with the highest density of trees worldwide. It's the result of decades of hard work with a strong personal push and commitment by our founding Prime Minister, Mr. Lee Kuan Yew. But now that we are where we are today, what comes after this? Are we done? Is this the climax of all that we need to do? In fact, our next phase is to be a city in a garden. And this is not just a slogan or a clever turn of phrase. It's a strategic imperative. We must continue to enhance our greenery further, not just at the ground level, but even sky-rise level. We must enhance our biodiversity and learn to live in harmony with nature, with the flora and fauna around us for all to enjoy. Likewise, on economic infrastructure, we are known for good economic infrastructure, which attracts companies from around the world. But we cannot afford to stand still while others catch up and move ahead. So how can we invest in new infrastructure to make Singapore even more competitive, attract more investments, and create more jobs for our people? The Committee on the Future Economy had studied this and set out several recommendations, as several members have also highlighted. So let me share some of the areas that MND and URA are working on. Our aim is to create new growth centers, not just in the downtown area, but all over our island. And these new centers can be nodes for related industry clusters to come together, including in new growth areas like fintech and cybersecurity. We will also set up more innovation spaces for incubators, accelerators, and startups. I think this was something that Mr. Liang Eng Hua had suggested earlier in the budget debate. So these new centers will be attractive spaces for Singaporeans to live, work, and play together. One such center is Jurong Lake District, which members would be aware is also the site of the high-speed rail terminus to Kuala Lumpur. This is no ordinary site, because when we consulted with many experts, including experts from abroad, they have told us that it is very rare to find such a site in other cities, which is located in a setting of lush greenery and water, the way we have in Jurong Lake District now. So we will integrate our new developments with the surrounding greenery and water bodies in Jurong Lake Gardens, which itself is being enhanced and revamped as our new national gardens in the west. And this will be a beautiful new setting for waterfront housing and office spaces. When we complete the high-speed rail station, it will not only be a major transport node connected to our MRT lines, but will also have a central linear park on the surface connecting to Jurong Lake Gardens. And this will not just be a second CBD, but it has the potential to be a center with multiple dimensions. The high-speed rail station will make Jurong Lake District a new gateway to Singapore and a regional hub for ASEAN businesses. Jurong Lake District is near the new Tuas terminal that we are building in the west. It's also close to other knowledge and economic centers like the Jurong Innovation District, the Clean Tech Park, and the NTU campus. So more than just another CBD, this can be a central innovation district, an incubator for new ideas and innovation, and a catalyst for Singapore's next stage of transformation, the way Jurong Industrial Estate kick-started our manufacturing sector 50 years ago. Another new area is Punggol North. This is a mixed-use area comprising residential land users, the new Singapore Institute of Technology campus, and also commercial and business park users. This growth cluster within Punggol New Town will have a focus on the digital and cybersecurity industries, and Punggol will be a key area for us to drive our Smart Nation initiatives. We are designating this as our first enterprise district, where we will try out several new urban planning concepts. First, we will appoint a master developer for the whole district and allow more flexible use within the area. In the Punggol cluster, most of the developments are undertaken by government agencies, so we will appoint JTC as a master developer. JTC will then have the flexibility to develop the district based on land use and gross plot ratio guidelines at the overall district level. In other words, instead of having planning controls imposed on individual land parcels, JTC will be able to optimize land use across the entire development and find ways to integrate the needs of different users. For example, since SIT's campus and the JTC's business parks are located side by side, we can have closer integration of the facilities. SIT's research labs, incubator spaces, and learning facilities can be located inside JTC's business park buildings and shared with the industry. At the same time, SIT can host industry research and development facilities and startup spaces within their buildings. So this will help to create synergies between students and businesses, between the academia and businesses, facilitate test bedding and prototyping of new innovations. The second new urban planning concept that we are embarking on is to allow, the second benefit of having such a master developer is that it can help to more comprehensively design and implement good pedestrian connectivity and public spaces. Traditionally, a desired network of public spaces and connectivity links can only be realized over a long period of time as the various land parcels are developed step by step. With a master developer overseeing the implementation of an entire enterprise district, the key pedestrian routes and public spaces can be identified upfront and a more comprehensive network can be implemented. Thirdly, the master developer will plan for and implement district-wide systems like district cooling, pneumatic waste conveyance system to support the district, all of which will help to reduce energy usage and enhance the sustainability and attractiveness of the environment. Beyond Punggol, we are also looking to introduce the master developer approach in other new residential and mixed-use districts, where private developers will be given flexibility in planning and developing at a district level. We will provide for such an opportunity in Kampong Bugis, which is a new residential precinct. The whole precinct is about 17 hectares in size. The traditional approach would be to carve it out and put out individual plots for sale. But this time, we will tender out the entire site for a master developer. We will give flexibility for the master developer to come up with the overall plan and develop the project by phases in line with market demand. But the master developer will also have to be responsible for certain outcomes. We want this to be a people-centric car-light precinct. We will require the master developer to put in place a more comprehensive network of pedestrian walkways, cycling paths, as well as community and green spaces. And also, we will want the master developer to put in place district-level systems to manage waste and stormwater. The development of Kampong Bugis will form part of our larger rejuvenation efforts for the Kallang River. And along the way, we will enhance the river with more greenery, seamless jogging and cycling paths. More homes will be introduced, and the older industrial estates in the area will be rejuvenated. All this will be done in a way that's sensitive to the rich heritage and biodiversity of the river, so that over time, we can transform the entire riverfront and bring back new life and vibrancy to the area.